Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Hopefully, this video doesn't go too long. But right now, we're going to be talking about Zohran Mamdani and him pretty much uh, lying about 9/11. Yeah, that's right. Typical socialist moron behavior. And I'm also going to be explaining on more of the things that he has with his rent freezes, his make buses free and provide universal child care, which seems great on paper, right? Because you're freezing rent, which means people don't have to pay, people don't have to pay an X amount of money. Buses is free, which people don't have to pay for buses, so you just go in and you pay for the buses, you get a free ride, and then provide universal child care, which would be great, assuming you don't have to raise the taxes to hell and back. So again, we're going to be going over this and explaining everything today. So we have this here with the Daily Mail saying, Zolas and New York City mayor favorite sobs as he recalls Muslim aunt being too scared to wear a hijab in public after 9/11. So we're going to wait till this loads here. But we're also going to be showing exactly on how stupid this is.
And agreed when a radio host said that I would cheer another 9/11. Yesterday, Eric Adams said that we can't let our city become Europe. He compared me to violent extremists. And he lied again and again when he said that our movement seeks to burn churches and destroy communities. The day before that, Curtis Sliwa slandered me from the debate stage when he claimed that I support global jihad. And every day, Super PAC ads imply that I am a terrorist or mock the way I eat. Push polls that ask New Yorkers questions like whether they support invented proposals to make halal food mandatory, or political cartoons that represent my candidacy as an airplane hurtling towards the World Trade Center. But I do not want to use this moment to speak to them any further. I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt, who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab. I want to speak to the Muslim who works for our city, whether they teach in our schools or walk the beat for the NYPD. New Yorkers who all make daily sacrifices for the city they call home. The dream of every Muslim is simply be treated the same as any other New Yorker. And yet for too long, we have been told to ask for less than that and to be satisfied with whatever little we receive.
Well, I'll be doing my stream tomorrow is going to be going over a lot of stuff here, and we're going to be going into the specific story where Muslims are not necessarily the greatest people we probably want around our kids. But again, that's another topic for another day. We're going to be specifically talking about Zohran Mamdani here. So again, this is what he has said, right? Where he's talking about his where his mom or his aunt did this word hijab. Well, unfortunately for him, says Zohran Mamdani's aunt neither wears a hijab nor lived in New York City before, during or after 9/11. So this is the woman here, and this is what we have with Suma Mamdani. It says, institutional senior level partnership management resource mobilization program, monitoring and self-management technical support, and mentoring, water and sanitation integrated management of childhood illnesses, HIV, AIDS workplaces, adolescent sexual reproductive health, etc., etc. So there's nothing here that's really resulting to her here, and we also have this as well, where Mamdani is just straight up lying as he always is about this. And that's the crazy thing here, right? Where he did the false claim here. I'm going to load this, and it says here, she told the Daily Mail, "I find what Mamdani had to say completely insulting to other people that suffered to a horrible loss that day." To compare an aunt being uncomfortable on the subway to all these families that were murdered was just very insensitive and shows its true colors. How dare he lie about 9/11 to invoke sympathy for Muslims? New York suffered horrible losses from a terrorist attack carried out by radical Islamists. He is a despicable liar, and this should open everyone's eyes to who he truly is. She said Mamdani should apologize, but didn't think he would. So even his own aunt is slamming him that she did it that about her own grandson, right, or what have you, or her own relative. So it's crazy. And again, we have this here, guys, where Zohran Mamdani says he's going to build housing for anyone in need, freeze rent, make buses free, and provide universal childcare. So let's go with this.
Here is what we stand for, my friends. We are going to freeze the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants and use every resource at our disposal to build housing for everyone who needs it. We are going to eliminate the fare on every single bus line and make what are currently the slowest buses in the nation move around this city with ease. And we are going to create universal childcare at no cost to parents. So New Yorkers can raise their family in the city they love.
So I'm not going to show the full thing because I want to get this video ongoing. So here's a few problems that we have with Mamdani's actual situation here. First, we'll talk about the actual rent freeze. So when we go about here, when we talk about what would happen if New York City, if you freeze rent for 2 million stabilized tenants, make buses free, and provide universal health care. Now, I'm going to provide ample information on what's been going on, along with other people leaving the city as well, because this is something that's been ongoing in New York. It's not like just because like you think this is all great. It's not all great and dandy at all. So again, it says there's positive impacts, which, it says it's going to suggest up to $6.84 billion over 40 years for stabilized households, while allowing more spending on local goods and services to boost the economy. Well, the negative impacts are landlords might defer maintenance, leading to deteriorating building conditions in stabilized units, as frozen units limit revenue for upkeep amid rising operational costs. Market rate apartments would likely see sharper rent increases to compensate, exacerbating inequality between stabilized and non-stabilized renters. Over time, this could reduce overall housing supply as developers avoid buildings or renovating regulated properties, pushing the multifamily market toward distress and hurting the small property owners. And this is a problem here, right? Because this is just not a small thing here where it's just not happening. Because again, if we talk about what we have with a business with all of this, it's an issue. So I may believe Mayor Adams did something like this, where he quite honestly, he did the simple of raising the actual rent here for everyone, and it didn't do of any good. So again, it says, under Adams' administration, the New York City Rent Guidelines Board approved a rent increase of 3% for 1-year leases and 4.5% for 2-year leases for rent-stabilized apartments, effective October 1st, 2025. This followed a previous increase of 2.75% for 1-year leases and 5.25% for 2-year leases for the 2024 and 25 lease cycle. The total rent increases over the 4 years of the Adams administration has been reported as 12.6%. And we don't know exactly how much Mamdani is going to increase the rent. But if it's anything like what Adam did, it's going to be a huge problem. And here's another issue that we have here with the operating costs. So, guys, people need to understand that when you own something, or you own a building or anything, whatever, you have operating costs. And if you have an operating cost, you got to be able to make at least enough money, which means either going even or what have you, to pay for the operating costs. And you need to make sure that you have extra revenue. Preferably, you're making a surplus, like a profit, so that way you can spend it. But if they freeze the actual rent increases, which is not going to account for inflation, you get massive problems here. and this is just not the a good way to go about it. So the average cost we have here for this is is around $13,000 for a typical mid-sized building with 20 to 99 units. The most common range in the sample, this equates to roughly 278,000 to $1.3 million annually in total operating costs. That's insane, right? That's insane. That's a lot of money. So if you have the per unit that costs 1.6 1.6 thousand or 1,600, and or Corman in 1900 or etc., it isn't going to go too good for you, right? I mean, you can't pay the operating costs. And considering the fact there are a lot of buildings or etc. Looking to quite honestly leave, it's not looking good here for Mamdani and all this other stuff as well. Because again, this is a huge issue. We have this here where the rents of tens of thousands of rent-stabilized apartments remain off the market during record housing shortage. So the shortage here is already in effect. It's already a huge problem. So him doing this is going to cause more issues. Here's a guy on TikTok essentially explaining the severe problem that they have in with these apartments just being abandoned.
Is the 8 of nearly 100,000 vacant apartments that are in New York City. This is 2nd Avenue, which is prime real estate, where the average 4-bedroom goes for $6,000. I'll show you another completely vacant building about 200 feet away. Now, why are all these buildings vacant? These apartments continue to sit vacant because of a law that was passed in 2019 called the Housing and Stability Tenant Protection Act. Very well intentioned, very poorly executed. Big picture, what the law did is when someone moves out of a rent-stabilized apartment, let's say they want to move to Florida or they pass away, they eliminated the landlord's ability to raise the rent at a reasonable level. So now when someone moves out of a building, the landlord's like, it doesn't make economic sense to renovate the apartment, and they take the tax write-off and let that apartment sit vacant. Here's another completely vacant building. Look at that. That building's been vacant for over 5 years, so you can read all about it. So every single day, as these apartments are being moved out of and they are not being renovated, New York City becomes more and more unaffordable.
Yeah, so this is not good. The only thing that Mamdani is going to do is completely destroy the New York City housing community over there. It won't be good. It's just completely being vacant. And now we have other things as well. Well, we don't like for how much he's going to be freezing. We don't know. So it's estimated to be $6.8 billion in lost revenue over the 40-year period, which these apartments are not going to do, which is going to cause a major housing crisis in New York City. And again, let's move on to this, right, where prominent businesses threaten to leave New York City if socialist Zohran Mamdani is elected mayor. So this is not good here, where business leaders, billionaires, etc., are planning to leave New York City if he becomes president, or not president, but mayor. So where is this a good positive way for New York City, actually? This looks like it's going to be a huge problem. And then you have John Casimides, the 76-year-old billionaire owner of Griselda's Supermarkets, told the Free Press that he would consider closing his supermarkets and selling the business if Mamdani becomes mayor. It's like, this is not good. Bill Ackman as well. These are people that are planning to leave New York City if he becomes mayor. And then you have this as well, where you have it to where business and the NYPD may leave New York City. They voted for this. $14 billion in income vanishes from New York City as 125K residents flee for Florida. This is not good. This is catastrophic for New York City. And if this keeps on going and the NYPD leaves, that means that the 7,000 criminals that they're going to release after removing Rikers, that means that all these criminals are going to run free. The police are not going to be there because they're going to leave. Businesses are going to bow, and New York City is going to be an absolute hellhole. It's going to be destructive. And that's what we have here. And then again, we have Patrick Bet-David warns of mass exodus of investment out of New York City if socialist Zohran Mamdani becomes mayor. When I was talking to realtors, everyone was talking about Mamdani, and they said, I cannot tell you how many people are already planning on selling their homes in Manhattan and are already looking at investing outside of New York City. Realtors in Miami, Florida, Lauderdale, Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Nashville, they're waiting for Mamdani to get elected because people will be leaving. The arrogance of thinking people won't leave, they have a short memory. They don't don't remember what happened in 2020, 2021, and 2022 during COVID, which two states lost $1 trillion of money on their management. California, New York lost $1 trillion of wealth. So this is catastrophic. If all this is going to come to light here, and when he becomes mayor and people are going to have mass exodus, and when people leave, that means the economy is going to crash, etc., because people are leaving, it's not going to be good. And of course, Zohran Mamdani's campaign donations came from outside of New York City, which I reported this already. And then you have the list of billionaires spending big and last-ditch effort to keep Zohran Mamdani from becoming New York City mayor. So it's not good. Everywhere that you see where Mamdani is facing here is catastrophic to the community, to the actual state in itself. This is not good. And just because the people of New York City are going to suffer doesn't mean that the people of New York that are not in the city are not going to suffer too. They'll also suffer. And let's get to the buses as well, all right? The buses here, the MTA lost $1 billion to fare and toll evasion last year, bombshell watchdog analysis finds. So what that means is that the MTA lost roughly $1 billion to fare and toll evasion, and then the perpetually cash-strapped Metropolitan Department Authority, aka MTA, is also on track to lose $900 million this year from turnstile jumpers, bus fare scofflaws, and toll dodgers. And that is from September 11, 2025. God forbid if when he does this and make buses free, because the MTA has to pay for something, right? They have to get money to pay for this stuff, right? It's just not like it's free. And these are people not paying for it, right? These are people that are not paying for these buses. So if they're not going to pay for these buses, then that means, well, guess what? It crashes and hurts the economy. And on top of that as well, you will have it to where if you're making it free, well, that means the MTA doesn't get money. That means they'll lose more than $1 billion, which means everything else becomes more expensive. Like, what are we doing here? This is almost simple economics of what's understanding. Now, you could maybe do this by paying it yourself. The problem that we have with that is that the negative impacts of doing that is the policy could create a 600 to 800 million annual revenue shortfall for the MTA, necessitating cuts elsewhere or new funding, which might overburden subways if riders shift modes. Evidence from other cities shows free transit doesn't reliably boost employment or earnings, and it could invite fare invasion issues or reduce service quality if budgets aren't addressed, which this is already happening anyways. Like, people are already not paying for it, so you're going to have it free? That means you either have to, if you make something free, that means that money has to go somewhere to pay for that. So that means that they would have to raise taxes on top of everything else that they would have to raise to pay for everything, including the child care, because that's not free either. You have to pay for that, which means the end impact is rollout would cost an estimate of $6 billion annually. This is just $6 billion for children for just 2 years old, all right? The New York City does not have money for the socialist policies. The country doesn't have money for these socialist policies. So what do you think is going to happen here? New York is doomed. It's going to go up in flames if Mamdani gets elected. And sorry, New Yorkers, but you paid for this. You did this. I don't know what else to tell you. Maybe listen and stop working for socialist policies. But of course, you have these idiots cheering it on like it's a great thing, yet they have no idea what's about to hit them in the coming months to maybe even a year. They have no idea. It's going to be reprehensible damage, and people are not going to realize how bad this is. You can't make things free. You get money somewhere. Even when you have the games being free, right? Quote unquote free, you know what they do? They either get money from websites, or they get money from the advertisers, sponsors, or they get money from their transactions. That's how they can keep the lights on. That's how they can pay for the game. So yeah, nothing is free. Something has to be paid to keep something going. And these New Yorkers are so stupid that like everything's going to be free when reality is not. It may be free at the surface, but in the back end, it's expensive as hell, and it's going to cost them in the long run. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share, and as always, take care, my friends.